Welcome to Behind the Sound. Today we have a band coming in, and their name is Dial Tone. So I'm going to let you guys give a little bit of introduction on who you are. You guys are from Turo, so why don't you guys give a little bit of introduction on the band and the background?
Sure. So my name is Ryan Seaton.
Matt McClellan.
Yeah, a bassist who's not here. He's sick. Dan Henderson. I started this band about 2.5 years ago-ish with some other band members. I had a different drummer and a different bassist, and we kind of just started off with this sort of melodic, sort of metal and punk infusion thing, and went along with that. We started creating songs. We did about 7 songs until I had to replace the band members. I went about 4 months looking for something because I lost my drummer, and therefore I lost my jam space. So I had to find this guy at a show, and he said he was a drummer and he had drums. We didn't have any place to drum at or jam. And then we asked our buddy Mike Pinto. He was renting out a spot that his band jams at. So
Yeah, shout out to Leaf Green.
yeah, Leaf Green.
Another great local Turo band.
And that's a very important part of our origin story, is getting to jam there and have an opportunity to have our own key for a spot and just like jam at any time. Anyways, got those guys in the band. They learned my songs that I wrote. And then once they were up to speed on that, then we started to write our own songs, which we discovered maybe like a half a year or like a year into jamming, that we have this really good synchronicity. So we can really pick up on each other's energy pretty well and start writing some stuff out of thin air. And songs have come out of that, which are really great and I'm very proud of. And that's something that we can show people the next album or two. We already have like the whole next album worth of ideas of songs, and we're just about to release our first album right now, December 19th. And we're doing
So
Ryan was saying when he kind of like found me, we've met each other outside of a show. And like you said, I did have drums, but I never really had a solid place to play or practice. Growing up, I was always going to shows and seeing all my friends in bands and always wanted to do it. And, just getting older and older, I realized that, this is probably one of my last good opportunities to actually do it. So I never really put too much effort into the drums because I didn't have a band or anything like that. Instead of learning how to play the instrument, Ryan just gave me this batch of songs and I kind of had to translate those into, like, for lack of a better term, a dumbed down style of the drums that were on the tracks, because his other drummer was like a full on metal double kick drummer, whereas I was just learning. So I had to, make my own kind of style of that, which has helped us immensely because now we definitely have our own sound that's not quite like anything else that is around here anyway. And that's kind of our goal with our songs, is we both kind of veer away from anything sounding like the previous track or like previous batch of tracks, because everyone knows what it's like to go to a show and the band's like 4 or 5 songs in and it's just like, they already played this song. Like it just all kind of blends in. So we do take a little bit of pride in the diversity of our songs.
when did you guys know when you wanted to make music, like as individuals?
when I want to make music, let's see, I started playing guitar when I was about 17 years old and self-taught. So I was horrible at it for about like 4 or 5 years. Like no one should be hearing any of that stuff what I was trying to do on guitar was horrible. So it wasn't until I found a group of friends that all had instruments and then time on our hands. So we got together and we were all very, very bad, but we would do covers. Like we did Metallica and Lamb of God covers every once in a while. So being very terrible and practicing twice a week for about 2 or 3 years, like constantly, like 2 times a week for that long, we got really good and we started writing our own music. And that's when I was like, I have an idea what sounds good, what feels good to play. So that's kind of like when I started. I was about like 21 years old or something like that. 20, 21. Yeah.
Yeah. So growing up, I grew up with my grandparents. So, and I still love the music to this day, but like I grew up on, listening to 8 tracks, like driving back roads in the Cadillac, like, Hank Williams, Johnny Cash, like true country Western music. Like, and I still love it to this day. But, and also like my mom, she's a consummate like country fan, even like, and I can still listen to sound like the 90s country, but when it got a little bit later on, it's just like, I can't really listen to this, And so that's when eventually I had to try and find my own, brand of music. And luckily, I met a couple good friends early on in high school and started going to shows, like local shows around Truro. And back then, like the early 2000s, Truro had one of the best like underground music scenes, like east of Toronto. Like,
Oh yeah.
easily, there was so much good music coming over here. So I was very lucky early on to have those friends in those bands. And I was always really reserved and shy and just, obviously wanted to do what they did, just could never put myself out there to do it. But as far as like when I knew I wanted to play music, I for a short time wiggled my way into singing for a metal band in I think grade 10 or 11. Singing, and then I kind of self-taught myself on guitar and just made a couple, bedroom recordings and stuff like that. But it's just one of those things with drumming. You're just, you're always like, no matter what you're doing, you're always patting yourself on like the legs or the knees. You're kind of keeping that's
Mhm.
when you listen to a song, you kind of like focus on that part, like that instrument. So I just I bought a shitty drum set one time for like $150, and then sold that and then bought a little bit better one and just was like, okay, I'm going to start doing this. And then about a year or so later, like I said earlier, I met Ryan and here we are.
Nice. All right. Next question is, what's the process of how you guys come up with your lyrics, and what influences your choice of words?
Well, at first, lyrics and vocals are kind of a new thing for me because uh, it was about 2 years ago, I believe, is when I started writing vocals and even having a microphone in front of my face for the first time ever. Because when I started the band, you're writing all these songs that I had, my brain was only figuring out the guitar parts. I had no idea like little spaces where I could put lyrics or where I could like dance the melody over this part of a guitar riff. It wasn't even in my brain because I was thinking about getting someone else to join the band. I was thinking, all right, we're making all these good instrumentals. I'll get someone else to come in and sing over this. When I couldn't find anybody like that, I was like, okay, I'm gonna have to do this myself. And it was just had our first song called Bicho. And I was pretty I want to write lyrics that aren't cheesy, that aren't too like obviously personal to me. I want something that anyone can listen to and think that's me in that experience, not that's Ryan Speaton doing something. And I had a really big help from a friend, Justin McGrath. I brought him over to our jam one time and he brought his guitar. I was just going to show him our songs, but he literally sat down. Like, this guy's a genius when it comes to theory. He learned all of our songs that day. And then he just started coming to jams all the time. So he was like, in the band for a little while, and he's been writing music and writing lyrics for a while. So when I told him I'm gonna do the lyrics and I have no idea what I should be writing or how I should write, we literally would do a jam and then I'd drive him home and I'd sit in a driveway and we would kind of like come up with little ideas of what the song should be called, basic ideas of what the lyrics should be. And with him having his experience kind of bouncing off of me, and I was kind of developing my own style at that time. And then we would go to the Victoria Park every once in a while, bring our guitars and just kind of like brainstorm some lyrics. So that, plus I'm a huge fan of Kurt Cobain, Nirvana. So like his ability to have um, vocal patterns that don't always follow the guitar, and also the words that he does use, they're like creative and also non-specific sometimes, like symbolic, simple.
I'll tell you, I didn't
So
do with the Kurt Cobain thing. Like I find with you and actually both of us, because he has all of, obviously he wrote all the earlier songs, but we have a good co-writing thing going on between us with the new stuff, because I take things a little too literal and try to like be too poetic with it, where Ryan can kind of like poke fun at it and make it, not so serious, where like that's what Kirk did. He had a serious subject and he would go on for like the first half of the song about it, and then more than oftentimes than not, the rest of the song is him just poking fun at that idea,
yeah,
which I kind of enjoy. Music, certain styles and stuff are definitely meant to be taken serious, but I think if you can have fun with it and still keep it semi-professional, I think that's a great
yeah,
thing to do.
yeah. That's a huge part of it. Like, as long as you're having fun, like that's number one rule right there, having fun.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. So, what is each one of your childhood like that band that you just absolutely had to listen? Like, you know what I mean? That band that changed your view on music.
Mm.
That was like, wow.
Anyone who knows me probably knows this answer, Lamb of God. So, for a long time, Wrath and Sacrament were like my holy Bibles of music. Learned every song on the rhythm part, all the guitar parts for the rhythm. And it was just like, to me at the time, that was the most fun I could possibly have playing a guitar, is playing those riffs. I was just like, how does it get any more metal? How does it get any more fun and amazing than this? And that changed a lot of my style. Like, I'm not, with my writing currently, it's not constantly like noodling and like heavy and palm muting all the time, but there's always some influence from Lamb of God in maybe every one of my songs. I would say it's yeah.
Mine kind of a little harder to pinpoint as I grew up, with the country and Western influence. I find myself gearing more towards personality. I love the music, obviously, but Hank Williams, Johnny Cash, you could you could read up and enjoy their life tale
Mm.
over and over and over again. So those were early on, and then Nirvana when I was mid teenage to late teenage. I just loved the whole story. That was like the first band I really hyper fixated on. I had to own all their albums, all their bootlegs, everything like that. And then eventually I just fell in love with the Ramones. And that's another band where you can just go on and on with all the members and just read about their lives and see their journey and stuff like that. So, although music comes first, I do find myself gravitating towards a good backstory of like why they do what they do. But at the end of the day, if I had to pick one, it would be the Ramones.
Had to pick one topic, genre for the rest of your life, what would it be?
Like to play or listen to?
Both.
Listen,
Listen to?
both.
Listen
Yeah.
to?
Both.
Just one. Yeah. Yeah, I love all music and like so many different types of metal, but it could be thrash metal. Yeah.
It may be nostalgia, but I do believe that everything's just been overdone. And if you go back, you can really, really get to what made music what it is today. And I do think, these 60s, 70s country and Western, I just think it tells a story. It's simple, but not boring. I just think it has great feel to it. And if someone really gave it the time, I think it's something everyone could really enjoy.
Yep.
I grew up on that too because I grew up with my grandparents, and I had mentioned that like anything before like 1990s country like is great, but after like the 1990s it just got so commercialized.
Yeah.
Oh
And
yeah.
it's just all like happy love stories and whatever can sell. Yeah, I highly agree. Like Johnny Cash is one of my I still listen to his music
Yeah,
like to this day.
for sure.
Underrated band or artist that you think should get recognition.
Oh my goodness. Rated. So we're in the underground scene quite a bit. We see a lot of amazing bands. Like what you're doing is you're shining light on us, which I think needs to happen to a lot of bands in the underground scene. Since there's not a whole lot of that yet, the recognition that I find the bands are getting are like likes on their posts on Instagram, the crowd sizes at their shows, and the reactions. But to pick one and try to say for like this video that might reach more people, I'd probably say keep your eyes on Bologna, Colorado, the Orchid, our buddies in Leaf Green, buddy that's producing our album. He's in Very Jerry right now. Justin McGrath that was in our band. He's got Shadow Folk, which is another great band. So much talent. Like I don't think I could really like pick out one that's from around here that I feel or abroad as well. But yeah, I feel like all those guys need some recognition.
Yeah, kind of on the spot with that question. Can't quite think of a great answer, but just to take one of Ryan's, I would say Bologna Corrado. They're not quite a churro-based band. I think it's about half and half.
Yeah, he jams here.
Yeah, but they have just it. It reminds me of early '90s, not grunge, but just that feeling that music still had in the early '90s, like the harder music.
He's like straight up rock and roll.
It is like a rock and roll with a dash of grunge, but mostly rock and roll. Like Cole, the lead singer frontman, he just owns every bit of the stage, every show, has so much attitude and just musicianship.
He is me.
He is your idea of a rock star without being cheesy. You know? But no, Bologna, Colorado, they played the first show of their tour, No Girls Allowed tour, and Truro last night. And tonight they're in St. John's, and then onward to Quebec, and then like 7 or 8 shows in Toronto, and then a couple on the way back to Nova Scotia. But yeah, Bologna, Colorado for sure. If that reaches more than one person that hasn't heard them, you are better off for it.
Okay, I got a 2-part question for you guys. Who would you say you shape your sound around? And the second part is, if there's anybody to say you sounded like, who would that be that would make it a compliment to you?
Well, being the same answer for both of those questions for me. I don't like trying to sound like somebody, but I'll answer the second part. If someone said I sound like Kurt Cobain in any shape or form, I'd probably just die right there. I'd be like, oh man, like,
I was gonna guess that.
yeah. But though I love him and his songwriting and his sound when it comes to vocals, like his rasp is unique and amazing. I do like to take influences from that, but I also know that I want to have this band represent whatever I am. So I'm gonna do what is fun, what I like, what I want to play, and what I want to hear as well. And yeah, if that sounds like somebody, then that's all good. Yeah.
That's
Yeah,
a good
I
answer.
think I mentioned it earlier. Like we do take a little bit of pride in our songs being different. We, from what I've heard, we don't really sound like anyone around here anyway. Like I said, we make sure our songs do not clash, or we make sure they do clash with each other. Like they do not sound similar at all. And where Ryan is a great guitarist, we go back on old recording stuff all the time. Like that's one of my little mini jobs of the band is like I have a recorder that I set up for every jam. So we're able to go back, remember, and take out, riffs and stuff we're doing like that to kind of build on songs. And yeah, I just really think we have a unique sound. And we've gone back and like he's doing stuff. I'm like, that is, straight Robert Plant shit from Zeppelin.
That's
And
sick.
and where I'm just like keeping a simple beat more times than not, like pretty much zero fills. So it's just, and we don't have that traditional dynamic with our bassist Dan either. Like usually the drummer and the bassist play off of each other, but where I was never in a band and I learned guitar first, like I follow Ryan the whole time. Like we just have this unspoken synchronicity. We don't even look at each other. We just feel it.
That's
So I
good.
play off of Ryan and Dan plays off of Ryan. So it's just this weird trifecta of all of us doing our own thing, but it not clashing. Like it definitely fits.
And you would think like with our randomness, it seems sometimes what we're doing, it still works. It works great. And it actually, sometimes when we're recording it, we listen back to it. It's just like, it sounds like something that we would have jammed right there and just made up on the spot. Sometimes it sounds like something we worked on for months and it's like a solid piece. So
Yeah, we
magic.
do have like a handful of recordings where it's almost like magic in a bottle. We've tried to recreate it, and like just the one take, like the first take has always been the best one because it was just perfect at the time. And like I said, we tried to recreate it so many times. Like we're working on this one song. We've written songs and had them done complete with lyrics in like 2 months. And we've been working on this one song for almost a year now. And it's just because it's not like the original. And it's just very hard to recreate. So
A tip that you would give an old version of you when you first started that you're aware of now. So anything that you would have given yourself advice to as the younger version of yourself.
Oh, well, let's see. I'd probably say learn theory earlier and try vocals earlier because it wasn't until I was in this band, like I was playing since I was 17, just learning how to do covers of songs. When I got into actually learning theory, I mean, it broadens your knowledge and like everything you can do and what sounds good, what works together with what chord and shape recognition. And I was just like, still mad at myself for not learning this in an earlier age where I would have taken that knowledge and just like ran with it. And who knows where I'd be right now. But now I'm glad I did it. So that's probably what I'd say. Learn theory.
Yeah, my younger self, just it's kind of goes to like any high school kid really is. You don't realize until you're out of high school that no one gives a shit about what you wear, what you listen to, just basic material things like that. Like I was so caught up in all that at an early age. And it wasn't until I got into high school I was just like, no one gives a shit. No one cares. You know. And of course the classic answer like should have started taking lessons because there's bad habits. If you're self-taught, that's very, very hard to break later on because they're so ingrained.
Okay. Do you guys experience writer's block, and if so, how do you overcome it?
Well, I do that constantly. And like when it comes to lyrics anyways, I could probably write something on guitar, like I can make up something new. Doesn't matter how complicated or whatever, I can just do it over and over and over and make new things. But when it comes to lyrics, I'm extremely picky when it comes to that kind of stuff. I want it to be simple, I want it to be fun, but also maybe a second layer of like symbolism and meaningful.
Well, on top of that, I'll put you on the spot a little bit. I remember you said more like quite a few times that you like your lyrics have like a bit of duality to them.
Yeah.
So if you could maybe explain what you mean by that.
An entendre?
Basically like what?
It's called an entendre.
Yeah, that's
Multiple
right. Yeah,
meaning.
double entendre.
Yeah, your uncle does that a lot.
Yeah, so I would want lyrics to be sung in a way like the kids in the crowd, they could hear it and they can sing along to it. But I'd also want the option where someone's like, "Hey, did you know that this actually means that?" And they'd be like, then they'd have to listen to the song again, and be like, "Oh, yeah, I see what you mean." Sort of like that. So yeah,
How do you overcome it?
With all the newer stuff, our new song that wasn't written before, Ryan and I have been pretty good at writing together, which I think relieves a bit of the stress because, and we're very, very like we're roommates, so you know we get along very well, obviously, because we're able to live together and be in a band together. So we learned very early on that we take no offense to any criticism. Like we are 100% open to criticizing each other's ideas.
oh yeah,
If we realize that, yeah, that's a stupid idea. So what's your alternative to that? And then we just kind of bounce with that. Or you're like, I'll write a line, and then he'll write a line, and I'll be like, well, no, that should be switched here. He's like, oh yeah, but we should switch this to that. And so I think that helps a lot with the blockage. And there's sometimes we'll sit down and try for like 5 or 10 minutes and just nothing comes out. So we're like, all right, we just won't do that today, and then we'll come back to it.
yeah, kind of like splatting little things out every once in a while, and then something will catch. So we just gotta wait for that little catch to spring us forward again.
If you guys can't be open with each other about your lyrics and stuff, there's no point, right? The constructive criticism is key. Yeah, if your band members can't point you in the right direction as to where to go, then no, who can, right?
Right.
The next question is, how do you feel about the music industry today? So more in like the mainstream music industry. How do you feel about it?
Well, I'll take this. Ryan and I are very different when it comes to that sort of thing. I'm very, very traditional, analog. Like I collect records. I have CDs, but I much prefer my records. I don't have a Spotify account. I don't listen to music on YouTube. I like my music to be physical. I feel like there's a very, very strong, there's something about taking the record out of the sleeve, putting it on having to get up halfway through, turn it over, sitting there if you're alone, like pulling up the lyrics, slip, like reading along. I just think it's a lost thing, just going over the lyrics, learning the song word for word. You can still do that, obviously, with, Google, look up the lyrics while you're listening to it. But I just find people are so busy on their phones, they're probably not going to do that. So there's just something about, grabbing a record, throwing it on, being alone with that piece of music.
And when it comes to like the music industry, I do like something that has been lost, like the whole idea where music was centralized through like say MTV or Much Music, right? Something like that. You sort of had something that people would always, like everyone collectively would be watching and gathering opinions, and then everyone would have something to talk about. New bands would get out and people would talk about those people. And that whole idea, and like when you look on Instagram and all these social media places, you can have a band with like 100,000 fans or like 1 million fans. And then you go to talk to someone on the street and you go and tell them about that band and they have no idea who you're talking about. It's like, so like when things are so completely uncentralized, you have all these like pockets all over the internet, just like,
And Ryan made a good point with like or much music and MTV and stuff like that. Like when I was 15 or 16, I had a cousin that lived like in the sticks, like middle of nowhere, had no TV channels, something like that. So every month or so, I'd go out and stay the weekend, and I would tape like 4-hour blocks of music video on a VHS, and I would take it out to him. And then like I'd show him all of these new songs and new bands that he would never have heard before because he didn't have access to it. So that's kind of a fond memory of mine with that too. It's just and like you said, you had something to talk about. Like this new music video came out, and it was usually like just before an album will come out as a promo opportunity. So that gave the chance, like, oh, they're putting out this new album. Did you see the video? Like, yeah. So that's fun.
It's funny you mention that because that's literally like what we're trying to do here is kind of bring back that feel of just got like a channel that kind of centralizes all the Canadian. Well, I mean, we're not just Canadian independent bands, because that was what me and Aaron were saying, was that there isn't that there's not a place for you to discover new bands anymore. You just kind of have to find them on your own. All right. And that's the whole idea behind the show, is kind of give back some of that MTV. Like, cause I grew up, and I was saying to them, like, I grew up and I remember being a metal fan, and that's where I got all the new bands was MTV when they played like I was strictly listening to the metal shows.
Oh yeah.
But that's where you found new bands.
Yep.
We didn't have the internet and access to all these, like, I'm pre-internet. Like, the internet didn't become popular until I was 16 or 17. So yeah, that was our only way. And once they became like not about music, MTV just became a channel at one point.
Yeah.
We've lost that ability to just go onto a channel and discover a new band that we wouldn't discover otherwise.
See, there's no personal aspect behind it anymore. It's just generalized. You don't get to know the people. You don't get to know the backstory. You don't get to know as to why they're making the music itself, right? So that's where the whole concept of behind the sound came from. You want to get behind the sound, you get in depth with the artist.
Yeah, it kind of goes back to what I was saying with the personality thing, like with the only musician. If you're just hearing it, it's hard to, you can't put a face to it. You can't see their mannerisms. You can't see what kind of state of mind they're in. You can't see if they're a degenerate or not. Some of the best music in the world are written by complete assholes. Oh yeah, and we used to know who those assholes were.
Right, yeah. We used to like their songs until we figured out how much of a big of an asshole they were.
Yeah, like could you imagine now if like the next great punk band was Gigi Allen, and no one knew what Gigi Allen was, like who he was? Like,
oh my lord! I remember learning about him and being completely mind blown when I learned about the shit that he was doing.
Fuck.
Or could you imagine like R. Kelly trying like all this like and him all the shit that he was doing back, and all those musicians that were fucking with young girls back in the day?
Yeah.
They're completely outed now. Like they definitely, like, you know what I mean? And we all loved them and jammed to them back in the day until we figured out how
people
creepy they really were. I listened to R. Kelly when I was like 14 or 15, and now I'm completely creeped out that I used to jam to his music.
And P. Diddy. Good.
Just on the same.
Or P. Diddy is another one. We never knew how bad he was.
He's a fucking problem.
But just while
yeah, so you're totally right.
We're on the same topic. I think the last great platform where you could discover new music and itself as a media was, did you guys ever use Last FM? So like on your desktop computer that we all, used with, to listen to our music most of the time when we were younger, whatever you're using to listen to your music on, like if it was Winamp or Windows Media Player or anything like that, you would have like a little other app attached to that. It was like called a Scroggler, and it would record all the music you listened to and would put it on this site called Last FM. So you had charts of like how many plays you had of your band, like what your top track listened to was. And like it on the main page, it would have like a tab that would say like, you listen to this, you may like this band. And it would give you a full bio of like the band, where they're from, like some pictures of them, stuff like that. So I always liked that. And it was honestly the last good thing of its kind.
Question for you guys. You got any upcoming events or shows that we should be aware of?
Yeah, we got a big show coming up on December 19th, actually. We are playing at the Marigold in Truro at an album release show. So we're going to release our album that day. And we have the Orchids opening up for us. And then we also have Bologna, Colorado headlining the show with us. So that's going to be a really, really good show.
We said enough about Bologna, but the Orchids, they're a young two-piece. They like just became legal drinking age, I believe. Like they're straight out of high school.
Yeah.
but they're two of the hardest working musicians that I've met in a long, long time. Like they honestly play like 3 shows a week and have done so for like the last 2 years.
Mhm.
They've won awards in Halifax. They've had great opportunities. They just put out their first full length on vinyl, as well as CD and stuff like that. But they're just really, really hardworking musicians who, again, it seems to be like just a straightforward, hard rock and roll is really making a comeback. And it's really cool to see young kids like that being able to hold their own and put a huge dent on what people are
There's a
listening to.
lot of heavy metal punk bands in the Nova Scotia scene. A lot. And they're all great.
Yeah. Yeah.
Specifically, I find in Nova Scotia, or at least East Coast, there is a very heavy metal and punk band presence here versus like in Ontario, there's a lot more hip hop and R&B based. So yeah, I think our scene is definitely like, I go to a lot of local shows and I prefer to go see a local band anyway.
Support
Yeah.
local all day.
Yeah.
All that. So we're gonna break into the songs portion of this, and what we're gonna do is I got 3 songs. I've never even heard these yet, Aaron. So we're gonna blind react to these.
Okay.
They just emailed me this morning. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna name the song off that I'm gonna play, and then you can kind of give like an intro to it. So the first song that I have up is Sage.
Yeah. Sage, this was an interesting song where I wrote it all on paper through theory before I even touched the guitar for it. So it was like a little project of mine. I wrote it out, figured out how it would go around and where on the fretboard my hand would be. And yeah, then I got everyone else to jump on that. It was actually a second part. There was another song that was attached to it, and that was one full song. And our buddy Jason Marshall, he was like, you know what? You should cut that in half and make that into 2 songs. Sage is an old man that lives in the woods. He grows mushrooms, and he gets people to come to him to drink mushroom tea, and he gives them wisdom. And
Alrighty, well we'll give it a play then. Hate shit. Do you guys want to give an intro to that?
yeah, so the subject of this one is like the darkest one we have. There's not a whole lot of lyrics for it, but basically from the perspective of someone who has been utterly broken down as a person, and they seek guidance from a very horrible and manipulative person.
Yeah, and also Ryan well, I don't know initially, but he grew to actually hate this song.
Oh yeah.
And when he sent me the initial recordings of it, one was like a live take of one of the shows they did early on, and he even always said like, I hate this fucking song. Luckily, he got enough positive feedback from us to continue playing it because it's a good little tune.
Yeah, this song actually has like 4 iterations. It's totally different than when it started out as. I had to rewrite it a couple times until we finally got this. So yeah.
I have to
Yeah.
say one thing, you definitely don't sound like you do have your own sound. You really punk, but also like really metal at the same time.
Yeah.
I
That
like
song,
it.
I loved it.
Yeah.
I don't, yeah.
It's
You
Tony
love
Hawk. It reminds me of Tony Hawk-esque. Like somebody listening on Tony Hawk. Pro skater all day.
it.
Like,
Tried to escape from all the time. Sometimes dimming inside. Colors favor time. Burning either side. I try not to abide. But pixelated, pigment faded. I can't see the light. Color quick and make it better. Don't care about the lights, I'm already scattered. Through the colors and watch it spin. Nothing is worse than what has already been. Yeah, I know the envy shows. I don't mind. That's how the story goes. Oh man, but you know what I got. With the courage, it's crystal clear. Yeah, God is dead. You can't be here. Your yellow belly, the proof of fear. Yeah, yeah. Pixelated, pigment faded, I can see now. Color quick and make it better. Don't care about the lights, I'm already scattered. Through the colors and watch it spin. Nothing is worse than what has already been. Yeah, I know the envy shows. I don't mind. That's how the story goes. Oh man, oh man. Colors favor time, burning either side. I try not to abide.
So that song there really like I can feel the fucking Nirvana influence from the
uh-huh.
other songs. Like that one was way more grunge.
Yeah. But
You
no,
can go ahead and say
yeah, you're very welcome. Like it's been a lot of fun. This is our first interview as a band, and it was really a great experience.
well, I thank you guys for coming on. It was a great experience.
I want to thank you guys for coming. You guys' music is nice. It's got a nice, you got to get any energetic vibe to it, okay? And the influences you guys said that's in your music is definitely present. I mean, present in yourself. So you gotta keep doing what you're doing. You guys are nice.
Thanks, man. Appreciate that. Yeah.
Burning either side.